Today we're going to be going over what's called customary units of length. And customary, like a custom, is something that you normally do. So customary units of length are the way that we normally measure. So in the United States, we measure with feet, we measure with yards, and we measure with miles. So those are some of the units of length that we use. And they're different sizes, obviously. So right here, we have a ruler. A ruler is like a normal classroom ruler is usually 12 inches long. So if you put 12 inches together, you make a foot. And you can divide a foot up into 12 inches. Sometimes you use smaller rulers that are half of a foot, okay? But most are 12 inches long, which is a foot. And we go over here, and we have a yardstick. So a yard is a much bigger unit of measure, and it's 3 feet long, so it's made up of 3 rulers. So if you put 3 of these next to each other, you would make one of those, okay? So yards are obviously used to measure bigger things. A football field's measured in yards. We measure cloth a lot of times in yards because usually people buy more than a foot of cloth. We go over here and we have a mile, okay? A mile is a much bigger unit of measurement. It's 5,280 feet. And miles are usually how highways are marked to let us know how far that we have to go. Okay, so it's a much longer unit. We wouldn't measure the distance on a highway in feet. That would be ridiculously big numbers. So we measure them in miles. Some problems involving measurement and see how we would use measurement to solve these problems. So to build a new swing, Mr. Matson needs 9 feet of rope for each side of the swing and 6 more feet for the monkey bar. The hardware store sells rope by the yard. How many yards of rope does he need to buy? Okay, so we have a few things going on here. We got to find the question, which is how many yards of rope does he need to buy? All right, so what do we know about yards? The hardware store sells the rope by the yard, okay? But it doesn't tell us how many yards. It tells us that he needs 9 feet of this and 6 feet of this. So we have to realize that feet can be turned into yards because a yard is made up of feet. So in order to solve this problem, we need to know how many total feet that he has. So he has 9 feet plus 6 feet for a total of 15 feet, okay? And feet is usually abbreviated FT. So, all right, so 15 feet. So how many yards is that? So that's when we got to go over here and take what we know about measurement, and you'll see a little chart here to help us out in case we forget. So we're buying it in yards. So what does it tell us about a yard? Well, it tells us that a yard equals 3 feet. So I want you to think about this because this might seem a little backwards to you. But if you have 15 feet, 1 yard is 3 feet. So you are going to have to see how many groups of 3 you can make out of 15. So you've got to take 15 feet and divide it by 3, which remember you can write as a fraction, which is 15 feet divided into groups of 3. That will tell you how many yards he has because every 3 feet makes a yard. So hopefully we all know that 3 goes into 15 5 times evenly with no leftovers. So what that means is that he's going to need 5 yards of rope so that he has enough rope for 15 feet. So Martina orders 12 yards of material to make banners. If she needs 1 foot of fabric for each banner, how many banners can she make? Okay, so we're trying to figure out how many banners can she make. What do we know about the banners? We know that she needs 1 foot of fabric for each, okay, and that she orders, so what do we know about the fabric? She orders 12 yards of material. Oh, so this is interesting. So pay attention because when you're talking about cloth, material, and fabric, these 2 words here mean the same thing, okay? The material is the fabric and fabric is cloth, okay? So how many banners can she make? She needs 1 foot for each and she has 12 yards. Okay, wow. So that means we have to take what she has, which is 12 yards, and to figure out how many she can make, we've got to take the 12 yards and we've got to put them into 1 foot pieces. All right, but here's the interesting part. We're not going to be able to actually divide 12 yards by 1 foot, okay? Because remember when we were talking about fractions, you said they had to have a common denominator? So this is feet and this is yards. They're both going to need to be the same type of measurement in order to figure this out. So, and just like a fraction would have to have the same denominator. So that means to figure out how many groups of 1 foot I can make, I need to know how many feet are in 12 yards. So I have to turn yards into feet. So how do I do that? Okay, well, let's look over here at what I know, okay? And again, I know that 1 yard equals 3 feet. So this time, instead of dividing, I'm going to have to multiply, okay? And the reason for that is because every 1 yard is going to equal 3 feet. So if I have 12 yards, I have 3 feet 12 times. So in order to figure out how many feet I have, I'm going to have to do 12 by 3. 12 by 3 is 36. So if 12 yards is 36 feet, and she needs 1 foot to make a banner, she can make 36 banners. So she can make 36 banners. So our answer would be 36. So the thing that we've got going on here is when you are doing measurement, if you are doing what's called converting, changing from one measurement to another, if you're going from a smaller to a bigger measurement, you're actually going to divide because it's going to take a lot of the smaller measurements put together to make something bigger. So you're going to be making groups. And if you're going from a larger measurement to a smaller, you're going to need to multiply because there are lots of small things in the big one, okay? So what I mean by this is this. So if you look at this one here, you have 240 inches, and you want to change it to feet. Well, if we look over here, 1 foot equals 12 inches. So we actually have to group 240 inches into groups of 12 to figure out how many feet they are. So that means we're going to have to divide 240 by 12 in order to answer the question. So and actually we can write that like this. We can take 240 and split it into groups of 12. So if we divide 240 by 12, that's going to tell us how many feet there are because every group of 12 is a foot. Okay? Now this one here is interesting because this one we're going from bigger to smaller. All right? So we have 100 yards and we want to figure out how many feet that is. So if we go over here, 1 yard equals 3 feet. That means every one of these yards is a group of 3 feet. And remember, if you have a group of something over and over, you're going to multiply. So in order to figure this one out, you're going to have to do 100 times 3. And the reason for that is because every yard has 3 feet in it. Okay, so you have 3 feet 100 times, and that's how you're going to get that measurement.